What's going on, guys? It's MadManPlant. We are here at MJBizCon, and it is an awesome day. So far, we've done 6 interviews, and we're just getting started. I have Jeffrey Kahn, which is from the law offices of Jeffrey Kahn, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to him is education. With the Smoke Busters podcast, it's all about mental health, home growing, and then ultimately smoking. But one of the things about smoking is also safety, and not just in the ways of don't burn yourself with a lighter, but how to protect yourself legally, especially when there's other factors. So let's talk a little bit about, one, your passion for cannabis-related cases and how you're involved in cannabis to begin with.
Sure. So anyways, I got involved with cannabis about 8 years ago in terms of a cannabis business perspective when Prop 64 passed in California, legalizing recreational cannabis. So as a tax attorney for the last 36 years or so, I've been helping people with complicated tax issues, both civil and criminal. And so in the cannabis sphere, being that a lot of people have been involved when it was illegal and stuff, and now they want to get involved and they're on the radar screen, that's when, hey, all the bells and whistles should ring saying, hey, I better get a tax attorney to protect myself from what I did in the past. Plus, if you're starting a business, you got to start it off right. Have the right structural foundation. If you're doing intercompanies and stuff with the contracts, protecting yourself and stuff, and that's where we can help. So we help with the past, and we also help with the future.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, because one of the biggest things is it may not even be an intentional situation that you got yourself into when it comes to taxes and all the other things. And I think a lot of people too don't, especially outside of business, starting a business, think about, I'm making all this money, I'm going to have taxes. And then also, what taxes are good, what taxes can be, expensed out through, profit and loss, or through, writing it off as a business, stuff like that. And I think it's also important too is, I think cannabis, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's a very different space because it's heavily scrutinized. So they're going to be a lot harder on you.
That's correct. A lot of times what I find with business owners is, especially the successful ones, they start a business based on an idea and it just explodes. And typically these business owners, they're not very structured.
No.
So before you know it, their operation becomes so large to handle, and it's like, oh, what do you mean? I was supposed to be doing this particular compliance all along, or this particular reporting.
Yeah.
And so now it's like we have to help them go back many times years. You're like, oh, I didn't know I had to do income tax returns. And I didn't know I had to get this type of license, with the state or with the city or whatever. So we help them come into compliance. And, typically there may be a big price tag that they got to pay, in terms of back taxes or whatever. So we work and we see what can we do to get penalties abated, get them on a payment plan, maybe some kind of discounted settlement. So that's where we come in.
Now, how does that ultimately help a business or a small business in that sense, being able to provide them that help where they can get back on their feet? And why is it important for a company out there or somebody that's thinking about starting a company to think about this in the beginning, not when you need it or when things are starting to go south with the IRS?
Yeah, so that's really, really important. By starting at the beginning, that's where you're going to get, basically the most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Okay? Because and a lot of businesses, what I typically find when they come to me is, we've been collecting local taxes, sales taxes, excise taxes on each transaction, and they'll report the tax that they collected to the state or to the city, but they say, oh, we don't have the money to go ahead and pay. And that is the most expensive form of self-financing, okay? When you're collecting the tax at the sale and you're not remitting it to the state or the city on a monthly basis, now they're coming back to you later.
Yeah.
with the interest, with the penalties, and effectively you're paying like 50%.
That's
Tax,
a lot of money.
penalty, and interest on that money. That's a very expensive loan. And I typically find that where these companies have been doing this for months and for quarters, they're looking at such a huge liability. It's like, how do we dig ourselves out of this hole that we created?
Now, what are some of those answers and solutions? Like, how is, I don't have a lot of room with honey. How is somebody able to dig themselves out of the hole when they get into a pitfall like that? And then how do you not risk not getting paid yourself? They already don't have money to pay the IRS. Now they're coming to you to help you out of the problem with the IRS.
So typically what happens is they'll engage us and we'll go ahead and make arrangements, with the state or whatever, government agency that we're dealing with. So it could be a payment plan. It could be an offer in compromise where we're able to get a lump sum settlement and, they pay that amount.
So there's
Got a
some
big discount.
leniency, and they will, if the person's willing to work, they'll work with them.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And, these jurisdictions, these different tax agencies recognize, hey, look, if we're going to put a business out of business, we're never going to get paid.
Again.
So, exactly. So, better off if, I'm showing this cannabis business is we want to work with the state, we want to work with IRS, let's do a payment plan or whatever, then these tax agencies will work with us. But if you're going to ignore them and only make the problem get worse by creating more layers of taxes and stuff, then they're just going to look to shut you down.
All right, well, as we come near towards the end of the episode, what are things that people can do, or how could you help somebody today?
So basically, contact me. Let me see what your current situation is. Identify who's the government agency that's looking to attack you the most. Typically, it's a state, okay? And the state's issuing the licenses, they're maintaining the licenses. So it's usually the state tax agency that's going to have the shortest wick or the shortest fuse. So we want to go ahead and diffuse that potential bomb first. IRS is typically the agency that will get to you last.
Interesting. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Very cool. Well, guys, this has been an awesome episode. We have more episodes coming your way. And what social media, website, how can we find you? How can we get in touch with you?
So best place is you can go to my website. It is www.cannabistaxattorney.com. And I'm Jeffrey Kahn.
Awesome, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for helping out the cannabis community. People like you in your space that are taking the time to educate, keeping people out of jail, penalties, liabilities, debt is a major thing, and I appreciate you and what you do, because it's the forward front of cannabis business, protection, and thriving, and that's really what we're in today.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Take care.